Who will the Packers select with the 15th pick in the 2023 NFL Draft? Will they select a wide receiver? The last Packers wide receiver selected in the first round was Javon Walker in 2002. Let's discuss. Okay, hello and welcome to Draft Brothers, a Champions Round podcast. We continue our NFL Draft preview series with the Green Bay Packers. I am your host, Jeff Hasley, and I'm joined by my draft brother, Dan Turner. And today's guest is Andy Herman, who is the owner-creator of the Pack-A-Day podcast and the editor-writer of the Packer Report. And Andy's going to help us understand what the Packers may do in the 2023 NFL Draft. Andy, it's nice to meet you. Welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Really appreciate you having me. Always fun talking Packers, even more fun when it's talking Packers draft. So excited to talk to you guys.
All right. We got a lot to talk about, so let's get to it. All right, so what is Green Bay targeting here with their first pick? And that's pick 15 in the draft. Is there a thought of moving up, of moving back? Is there a particular player of interest, Andy, that Green Bay has? What rumors have you heard?
Yeah, it's a great question. So a couple things. As far as moving up, we do know that Green Bay would very much like to get their hands on pick number 13 via an Aaron Rodgers trade. As we're recording this, that has not yet happened. And I know there's a lot of thoughts and opinions on what Aaron Rodgers is worth with his contract and what Green Bay is going to be able to get into in a trade. But there is a possibility that maybe it's 13. I don't think it's probably going to be quite that lucrative, but they could move up to 13 by even swapping picks 15 and 13 as part of a different trade as well. So those are possibilities. As far as where Green Bay's at from a draft standpoint right now, you can make an argument that this is probably the second time in 3 decades that Green Bay isn't actively competing for a Super Bowl going into a season, like not having like true Super Bowl aspirations going into a season. When you've got Brett Favre and Aaron Rodgers, you basically got a puncher's chance at a Super Bowl almost every year. And the last time that this happened where they didn't was when they transitioned to Aaron and nobody knew what he was going to be like in his first year as a starter. And this is the very similar situation now with Jordan Love, where we just don't know. But I think it's probably safe to say that expectations are not Super Bowl or bust going into the season. Like I said, for the first time in a long time, and not something that Green Bay fans are familiar with. But with that, makes basically a team that is extremely draft and develop and best player available minded when it comes to selecting players, even more so. There's not any one specific thing that they have to get early in this draft. All of that being said, I do think that this is a team that very much needs to target weapons. And what I mean by that is if you look at their wide receiver and tight end rooms right now, they've got Christian Watson, really nice rookie season. Romeo Doubs flashed in his rookie season. Samori Toure got like 100 snaps in his rookie season. Those are their top 3 wide receivers, all second-year players, all varying degrees of success in their rookie years. And then you've got 2 tight ends, Josiah DeGuara going into his 4th year, who's more of an H-back, fullback kind of tight end who hasn't done much. And then like Tyler Davis, and nobody knows who Tyler Davis is. That's fine. You shouldn't know who Tyler Davis is. So those would be like, if you were splitting out 5 wides, just using wide receivers and tight ends in Green Bay right now, those would be the 5 that you would have to go with. And if you want a real evaluation of Jordan Love or just to give him a puncher's chance at success, you have to add more weapons to that group. So while I think this is something that they're very much going to go their normal routine and go best player available, you can bet wide receiver, tight end very much on the top of their list right now.
All right, so stay on the wide receiver and tight end, and this is a little different question than we had planned because you explained that very well. What receiver do you think would fit best in what the Packers want to do going forward if they pick one, say, the first or second round?
Yeah, I'm sure this is a wide receiver that's on top of most people's, lists and the first name that they're going to drop for most people, but that's Jackson Smith-Njigba. And I think, there's clearly the thought or maybe concern that he's just a slot guy. I don't necessarily see it that way. I think one of the things that you can get caught up in is just because they didn't do something in college means that that they can't do it in the NFL. I think Justin Jefferson's a pretty decent, way to look at that and say, hey, that's not always the case. Just because they were only asked to do one thing doesn't mean they can't do multiple. A.J. Dillon in Green Bay, another. A lot of people are like, well, he's just a power back. He's not going to be able to catch the ball. They didn't throw it to him, but he got to Green Bay. He's got awesome hands. It's not like he's going to be running routes and, cutting on a dime as a wide receiver, but he's got great hands out of the backfield. It just never was asked to do it in Boston College. So I think he could potentially play outside. But here's the thing for Green Bay. Christian Watson can play outside. Romeo Doubs can play outside. So even if Smith and Jigba is just a slot receiver and that's all they need him as, okay, that's not a huge deal in Green Bay right now. And we just talked about the need for weapons. He obviously fits that. He fits all of their size, speed, athletic thresholds that they would generally look for. And I just think if you want to supercharge this offense with Jordan Love and give him the playmakers that he needs, giving him two guys on the outside and Dobbs and Watson with Smith and Jigba over the middle, he's going to be a automatic walking first down. I love the way that he separates. You can talk about like all of these little things with wide receivers that different wide receivers do well. You know what he does well? He gets open. And sometimes we can like really drill down deep into like all the minutia of like how they win or he just gets open. Don't overthink it. And I think that's exactly what you want. If you've got a first-year starter at quarterback, give me the guy that's going to get open the most. And to me, that's Jackson Smith and Jigba in this draft.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned someone else, Justin Jefferson and everyone else thought was just a slot. Look how he turned out. So,
right.
Smith and Jigba has any kind of career like Jefferson has had so far, I think the Packers would be really happy with that kind of pick.
Yeah, very much so.
We are talking with Andy Herman, who is the owner and creator of the Pack-A-Day podcast and writer and editor for the Packer Report. You can find him on Twitter at Andy Herman NFL, and we're talking Packers here. So, Andy, I've got a question for you this is a difficult one. If you're the GM, if you're Brian Gutekunst, you've got 10 picks in this draft, and that's even before any potential Aaron Rodgers trade. How would you go about attacking this draft with 10 picks and perhaps more, moving up, trading back, particularly targeting a player or a position of interest so that you can make that a non-question heading into the season? How would you attack this? I know that's kind of a loaded question, but I'm just kind of curious what you would do.
Yeah, so this might be a little bit of a lame answer, but I'll try to explain it in detail. As I mentioned, Green Bay is very much a best player available draft and develop team. And I do think they're going to go that very similar way this year. And that's exactly what I would do. And I think there's one thing they can't do. I don't think they can take a quarterback in the first round. I think that's probably the one from an optics standpoint. If you're trading away Aaron and finally going to Jordan, immediately picking a quarterback in the first round, I just don't think the optics add up pretty well. I think thankfully, probably the top four guys are probably all gone by, even if they get 13, they're probably gone by that point anyway. So I don't think it's probably going to be in the conversation. But you kind of look at the rest of this roster. This is a team that I know maybe teams won't see it as like a traditional, like all in that they went the last couple seasons, but they spent every dime that they had in trying to keep that team together over the last couple seasons. And now you have this sort of weird dynamic where you've had some of these older players and veterans on the team that you're eventually going to have to churn out. You do still have a really core base of younger players. We just talked about all the wide receivers that are coming off their rookie years, but you look at this team as a whole. They do need a backup quarterback as soon as Aaron is traded. At running back, Aaron Jones and A.J. Dillon could both be gone after this season. We just talked about the needs at wide receiver and tight end. Offensive line, you've got David Bakhtiari at left tackle, who's getting up there in age. Josh Myers has been a disappointment at center. Yash Nyman will be a free agent after this year, assuming that he ultimately and eventually signs his restricted free agent tender. Along the defensive line, you've got three young, talented players. I guess Kenny Clark, semi-young at this point still, but you've got Devontae Wyatt, TJ Slayton still, but then have a huge need for depth behind that. Devondre Campbell, you have the opportunity to get off of his contract after this year, so inside linebacker can still be in play. At edge, this is probably Preston's last year. Rashawn Gary is coming off a torn ACL. At safety, you absolutely need a complete influx of talent at that position. And then at corner, that's the one spot where you kind of feel okay. You've got former first-round pick Eric Stokes. You've clearly got Jair Alexander, one of the best corners in football. You've got Rasul Douglas, who's played pretty darn well over the last couple seasons. However, this could also be Rasul's last season in Green Bay. And you don't have anything really behind those three other than Keyshawn Nixon, who is primarily a returner and can kind of fill in as a nickel guy every now and again if you need him to. So there's really not a position on this team that you can't say, all right, they just can't do that. Like I said, outside of QB in round one, that's probably the one thing they can't do. Other than that, let the draft board fall to you. Take the best player available, go for value, and just start building this team up around Jordan Love so that you can compete in 2025, 2026, and beyond that. Because right now, like I said, for the first time in a long time, this is not a team with Super Bowl aspirations going into this season.
Yeah, and it kind of sounds like that's what you're saying is going to happen here is best player available, fill spots when needed, take value when you see it. So
absolutely.
I like that. Good answer. If you like sports and playing sporting games, download the Champions Round app. Get playing and start winning. Use the promo code DraftBros for a free $10 and check out our newest game mode, Spicy Slips. If you love live sports gaming, the NBA, or you just want some extra action this NFL offseason, come play Spicy Slips. Build a 2 to 5 leg parlay of live props and win big today.
All right, so going back to the weapons that Jordan Love is going to be tossing to this year, is it a reasonable expectation that Jordan Love will target at tight end maybe a little bit more than Aaron Rodgers did throughout his career?
I think the big thing here is maybe not targeting the tight end as it is targeting the middle of the field for whatever reason. And there's theories and there's maybe reasons why. Part of it is because for a lot of time, Green Bay didn't have a good tight end. I think that's a piece of this as well. But Aaron became a little bit allergic to throwing in the center of the field. If you look at his spray charts, it's all to the left and right. And the middle of the field is very sparsely targeted from game to game. So I do think Jordan's going to utilize the middle of the field a lot more than Aaron did. And I think that's going to lead to more production for the tight end group. I do know he has, a bit of a connection with Josiah DeGuara. So I would expect DeGuara to be a bit more involved in the offense. I think partially it's because they came into the league in the same season. I think it's partially because DeGuara has been kind of the number 3-4 tight end, which means they're working a lot together on the scout team and the number 2 offense and those sort of things. So there does seem to be that natural inherent connection between those two. So I'm sure, like I said, I'm sure DeGuara is probably going to see a bit of an uptick, not only in playing time, but potentially targets as well. But I think then it's up to Brian Gutekunst and this Packers offense to actually arm Jordan Love with a tight end. Like I said, DeGuara is more of an H-back, fullback kind of tight end at this point. And after that, they don't have a true tight end that they want to use for, 900 snaps a season on the roster right now. So it's going to be up to the front office to really arm Jordan with that tight end. And if they get him one, I do think he's probably going to target the middle of the field and that tight end a bit more often than Aaron did, specifically over the last 5, 6, 7 years.
Right. So as a follow-up, is there a tight end that you like in this draft more than...
I like all of them. They're so I'm having the existential crisis with myself because a part of me, especially after Hawkinson and Pitts, who are good, but to me, those were two of the more insanely impressive tight ends that I've ever seen on a college football field. So for them to come out and Pitts to be all right, he's good, but I know he's had some injury issues and stuff like that. But it's not like you just came in and set the world on fire. And then TJ Hawkinson, you want to talk about just a well-rounded, did everything in college, block, catch. And he's already traded for not pennies on the dollar, but certainly not what they, put into him in the draft. So if those two guys, right? If those two guys, like two of the best tight ends I've ever seen in the college football field from an evaluation standpoint, if you're not getting the ROI that you expected out of those two, almost all of my being is just maybe just stay away from tight ends in round 1. Let other teams pick them. I am a pretty huge believer that, the best time to get a tight end is when they're going into their second contract. I think you talk about the nuance of playing tight end. You have to learn all of the things that a rookie wide receiver needs to learn. Maybe not quite all of them, but you get my point. And you also have to learn a lot of the stuff that a rookie offensive tackle has to learn. You need to learn the blocking aspect, the blitz pickups, how to run block. Then you have to learn an NFL route tree, how to separate from linebackers and safeties in the NFL. There is a steep learning curve for tight ends in the NFL. So I love literally all of these tight ends, and that's where my crisis comes in, because I'm don't spend on tight ends, and then I watch all 4 of the top guys, whether Musgrave or Darnell Washington, any of them, it doesn't matter. All of them, I'm just I love every single one of these guys. Laporta, I love in the second round. So I would be thrilled if Green Bay ended up with any of the top tight ends, and I know even the round 3, round 4 guys are pretty impressive in this draft as well. So if one falls to them and that's ultimately the direction that they go in, I'm all in. But I really do and I think the cool thing is they all bring a little bit of a different flavor to the table. They all have their unique way of playing. And it wouldn't surprise me if 3-4 of these guys ended up being all top 10 tight ends in the league in the very near future.
It is a good tight end class. We'll see what happens there. Maybe at 45, they decide to go that route.
45 seems very in Green Bay's wheelhouse. That seems like a real legitimate thing that could happen.
Yeah. I want to ask you something here a little bit off script, but I want to talk about Jordan Love a little bit if I could.
Yeah.
People want to know, of course, you mentioned when Favre retired, however many times he did, and Aaron Rodgers came in, there was a little bit of uncertainty there. We didn't really know how good Aaron Rodgers was going to be. And you said this is kind of the same situation all over again. So we've seen what he can do a little bit last year, right? That is Jordan Love. what can he do this year in terms of taking a step forward? What makes him what characteristics do you see that's good? What areas could he kind of improve upon? If you just to talk about Love for a bit.
Yeah, I think Brian Gutekunst and Matt LaFleur both basically said it best. The only thing left for him to do is play. Like that's literally it. Like there is a difference. Like he has an awesome arm. He has got really good mobility. He completely understands the offense. He knows where to go with the ball. Like he has everything. He's as prepared as you can possibly be for this moment. Does that mean he's going to be successful? No, but he's as prepared as you could possibly be for this specific situation, for this specific moment. And now there is a way that you have to go about actually learning how to win in the NFL, how to take care of the football, and I think the other thing that's going to be very important for Jordan is now it's defensive coordinators who are going to throw the kitchen sink at him. And I'm not just saying from they're going to go all out blitz like KC did a couple of years ago when he made a spot start and Green Bay's offense looked completely unprepared for it. I mean, they're going to throw everything at him. They're going to throw 3-man rushes. They're going to throw 8-man rushes. They're going to throw everything in between. They're going to throw every zone at him, every disguise coverage. They're going to throw everything at him and make his head swim. And I think that's what we're going to learn about Jordan this year is how does he handle that? How does he handle when defensive coordinators are specifically preparing to stop Jordan Love? Is he going to be able to overcome that and figure out ways to still pick apart defenses despite them throwing, like I said, the kitchen sink at him? So he has to play. And I think he has to just kind of gain confidence in the NFL. He's going to have to see all of this stuff live in real time with the real bullets coming at him in the moment. And then how does he respond to that? And then when adversity hits, because I think we all understand that there's going to be some bumps in the road in this process for Jordan, how does he bounce back? And I think one of the really cool things at Utah State it was 2019, in 2018, he was phenomenal as a sophomore, 2019 as a junior, where his head coach left, his coordinator left, I think 90% of his starting offense left. And it was just him. And he would just go out and battle. And it didn't matter how poorly the game was going, or if he was having an off day, it was the same Jordan Love, every snap, every play, everything. And I think that is something that's really going to help him this upcoming season is, he's the guy now. There's going to be some bumps in the road, but I think he's going to be able to handle that adversity really well.
All right. Well, that leads me to our last question, which is one quick question that we like to do here, and that's just a real quick, short answer. And that question is, who outperforms the other in 2023, Jordan Love or Aaron Rodgers? And let's go with you here, Andy. What's your answer?
If I have to choose between the two, I'll take the guy that won 2 of the last 3 MVPs over the guy who's making his first season as a starter. So I'll go Aaron, but I do think this could end up being a little bit closer than maybe some on the outside are expecting.
Gotcha. Dan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's going to be Aaron Rodgers, especially if he goes to somewhere like the Jets where, is pretty much just ready-made for him to succeed. And we don't know what Jordan Love is to Andy's point, but I just think, like he said, 2 of the last 3 MVPs are Rodgers. So I'm going to go with him. Not to say that that Jordan Love won't have a good year. I think he will. But you can't bet against Rodgers until he's gone.
Yeah, I lean that way as well. As much as I want to say that Jordan Love is going to be the man to outproduce Rodgers here, he's old. He's turning 40 in December. Hall of Fame quarterbacks just don't forget how to play, and the fact that he won MVP 2 out of the last 3 years, as you mentioned, I mean that's just not necessarily going away. He's not just going to lose his ability in one half of a season. So I'm still going to take Rodgers, but man, I so want to take Love because it seems like every Packers quarterback does well. I mean, if you look back at everyone, it's inevitable. All right. Well, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you, Andy. We appreciate you sharing your thoughts and your insights on the Packers. And be sure to follow Andy for all things Packers on Twitter. His handle is @AndyHermanNFL. And we appreciate your support. Thanks for watching. Please do us a favor. If you like this show, give us a like, a subscribe, a comment. If you have thoughts that you want to share about the Packers, that stuff really helps us and it helps out our channel. So please, thank you for doing that. And download the Champions Round app and use the free $10 bonus code. Your entertainment is our passion. We'll see you next time when we talk about the Dallas Cowboys draft. Andy, thanks so much.
Thanks, Andy.
Appreciate it, guys.